Now on Chronicle.
Good evening, everyone.
Leading the way for 70 years.
This is station WFBC TV.
This is one of America's great television stations, past, present, and future.
Scene at 6 at the news desk at this hour.
From WFBC.
Live on-the-spot coverage.
To WYFF4.
WYFF.
No matter what happens, local news is going to be important.
We've been your home for the big stories.
As the 8-story Andrews building completely collapsed, killing 5 persons.
The worst mainland disaster.
They are wanted back home.
Susan Smith has been arrested.
And our commitment to this community has never wavered. Now on Chronicle, celebrating 70 years.
Good evening and welcome to Chronicle. I'm Carol Clark.
And I'm Nigel Robertson. Before we were WYFF4, we were WFBC TV. And that was born out of a merger between Greenville's 2 oldest radio stations, WFBC and WMRC.
When the technology to transmit sound and pictures came along, many radio executives entered a new age of broadcasting. While our call letters have changed since 1953, the 4 has remained.
We are committed to this community and committed to being your friend for. Gabrielle Komorowski takes a look back at our 70 years of broadcasting.
Good evening, everyone, and a Happy New Year to you. This is station WFBC TV in Greenville, South Carolina, signing on the air.
Norvin Duncan said the first words over our air shortly before midnight on December 31st of 1953. This is what people watching us at home saw. In a 30th anniversary special in 1983, anchors Kim Bratton and Carl Clark explained what happened on that very first night.
The feature had come in just hours before airtime by Air Express, and in their haste and excitement, the staff failed to preview it, so it ran upside down and backwards.
And so that's how the giant of Southern Skies, as it was billed in the early years, began its memorable first night of broadcasting.
The staff in 1953 worked out of a small studio on Paris Mountain. They were experienced in radio, but television was a different challenge. In an interview in 2003, former anchor Monty Dupuis remembered it like this.
Everything being live, of course, we'd have to, sometimes if things went wrong, we'd fake it. TV by candlelight.
In 1954, Stowe Hoyle became the Atlantic weatherman. He said he didn't know anything about weather at the time.
They said, that's good. That's good. What we want you to do is do a weather program and let the people know whether they're going to be wet or dry, hot or cold, and do it with some kind of authority.
In 1955, station owners bought the property off Rutherford Street in Greenville, where the Cushman Mansion stood, and built a new structure suitable for radio and television. This is still our home today.
Well, let's go. Come on.
Some of you may have come here as children to be one of Monty's Rascals. The incredibly popular children's show Monty's Rascals debuted in 1960. Stowe Hoyle played Monty Dupuis' sidekick, Mr. Doohickey.
How you doing, honey?
Bad. Over more than 2 decades, Monty and Mr. Doohickey entertained thousands of local children. and you were one of those kids on the show.
I was. People loved it. I saw you on Monty's Rascals. Wow, okay. They did love it because it's hometown.
To the Greer City Council on Spartanburg is known as...
Lee Brown got to work in his hometown, joining the WFBC TV team in 1976, first in front of the camera as a reporter.
My goal was to work here. And it wasn't just because it was home. I wanted to work here because of how dominant this station was and how good it was. The reputation.
Lee brought his local knowledge to the role of assistant news director for more than 30 years and retired after 44 years.
My family gave me a ring when I retired. That's a 4. It's the station emblem.
Followed the unveiling of our new call letters.
Lee was here when we changed to WYFF4, when we changed owners in 1983.
That's what we've been since 1953, and that's what we intend to be in the years to come.
Former General Manager Doug Smith is credited with creating the catchy slogan, Your Friend 4. We have been an NBC affiliate through our entire history, and you may remember these names too.
At the news desk.
Anchor Dave Partridge, Deborah Lee, who was the first African-American anchor in South Carolina.
The most advanced water we've had on.
Charlie Gertz, a Navy meteorologist, joined the team in 1980. If Charlie said it would, it probably did.
Did pull that trigger.
EMS workers are on site.
We thank you for continuing to welcome members of the WYFF4 family into your home.
Each night at 6 on News 4, I'll bring you.
Carol Clark is the longest-serving anchor in our station's history.
Thank you. Oh, this is great. It's great to be here.
John Cesarich was our longest-serving chief meteorologist. John retired in 2019 after nearly 29 years at WYFF4.
The next generation of news gathering is here.
Sky 4 became a part of our family at the turn of the century.
The ground to the skies.
You're looking at exclusive video.
It is the only news helicopter in South Carolina.
Coronavirus cases continue to rise. Part of a virtually contactless.
I've just been trying to make ends meet.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, the way we brought you the news changed, but our commitment to you did not. Sometimes we brought the news into your home.
The NFL draft is next week.
From our homes.
It's a belief that what we're trying to do is bigger than ourselves. It's for some of us, it's less a job and more of a calling.
We're now in our breaking news here this afternoon.
Very active.
So we begin with team coverage of tropical.
This is our legacy for 70 years. Every day we remember our commitment to excellence and our commitment to you.
Via News Star 4.
Over those 70 years, there was no shortage of local news to tell you about.
Some stories stood alone as a moment in time, but others had a long-lasting impact, resonating through the years.
Here are some of the biggest stories in our 70-year history. A major story took off in 1958 when land was bought to create the Greenville-Spartanburg Airport. It opened the door to more business.
They worked very hard to get that, and that was huge for the development of the area.
The first flight took off 4 years later. Tourism took off in the 1950s as well, with the creation of the Southeast's largest recreational lake.
They're building something here that will not only conserve precious water.
The Lake Hartwell project began in 1955 with the building of the dam that held back parts of the Savannah, Tugaloo, and Seneca rivers.
I really do believe without the lake, the surrounding counties economically would not be what they are today.
Greenville's Donaldson Air Force Base deactivated in 1963 after 21 years of service.
Christ dying for you, and he suffered the pangs of hell.
The Reverend Billy Graham came to Greenville in March of 1966. He brought his crusade to the Textile Exposition Center. Thousands came every night for a week to hear his message of hope and redemption. In the 1970s, a hope for many people became reality. The court-ordered integration of Greenville County schools.
So we built an entire campaign on this theme. Education is the important thing.
WYFF4's general manager at the time, Doug Smith, helped ensure it was a peaceful change.
Not only did he use the station's resources to make certain that rumors weren't driving what people were feeling and hearing, but that they were getting accurate information.
And it took resources to deal with two calamities in the 1970s. On October 8, 1977, the Andrews Building in Spartanburg collapsed just 1 day before demolition. 5 men died when the 8-story building collapsed on top of them. Nearly a month later, a dam above Toccoa Falls Bible College in Georgia failed. That sent a 25-foot-high wave of water slamming into the campus.
I just remember being woken up in the night, in the dark. There were no lights, and I could hear what sounded like a train going outside my window. And we could look out and kind of see rushing water and didn't really know what was happening.
39 people died. Out of the tragedy, enactment of the National Dam Safety Program. But as we entered the 1980s, the once thriving textile industry here felt anything but safe. foreign competition took its toll.
The women in this factory turn out 2.5 dresses an hour. They make just $1.14 an hour. But that's why this factory can sell these dresses for just $8 each.
Imports and modernization meant job losses here and plant closings.
Willkommen in South Carolina. We are ready to do business with you.
But in the 90s, other plants opened. Automaker BMW built a plant in Greer. The first cars rolled off the assembly line in September of 1994. The 90s also brought one of our area's most notorious murder cases.
I remember the tragedy of it, of course. I remember believing her when other people did not. I was as shocked as anybody standing there.
Susan Smith of Union was convicted of drowning her 2 young sons in 1994.
That appeared to be at least a 727.
In 2001, during the 9/11 terrorist plane crashes,
I was just struck in awe by all the asphalt and the concrete and the people moving.
Scores of people from our area traveled north to help.
There is no doubt the streets of New York are not the same as the streets of the upstate. In fact, for most of the people on this mission, this was their first trip to the big city.
Nearly 3,000 people died in the Twin Towers attack alone. Back in Greenville, the Camperdown Bridge was removed in 2002, and in its place came Falls Park, one of the many developments that helped make Greenville a destination. In November of 2016, a decades-long spree of murder, rape, and kidnapping came to an end with the arrest of Todd Kohlhepp in Spartanburg County.
It's only by God's grace we found that little girl alive.
A woman was found chained in a container on his property, bodies buried nearby. Among Kohlhepp's known victims, 4 people killed 12 years earlier in a Chesney motorcycle shop. Todd Kohlhepp is serving life in prison.
I wish this would have never happened. I don't exactly know why I did this.
Jesse Osborne is in prison too. In September of 2016, the then 14-year-old shot 3 students and a teacher at Townville Elementary School after shooting and killing his father. 6-year-old Jacob Hall later died in the hospital. In February of 2018, world-famous evangelist Billy Graham died at his home in Montreat. He was 99 years old. The 2020s were ushered in with a worldwide pandemic.
And by far, this is definitely the worst year that I've ever experienced as the Greenville County coroner.
The COVID-19 virus prompted mask mandates, quarantines, and the development of vaccines. But in May of 2022, the word was unity. Greenville's newest park opened on the former site of 2 segregated parks.
Its name is Unity Park, and so it's an opportunity for us to be able to come together and get past what has divided us in the past to a place where we can be united together.
More than playgrounds and water park, walking trails and ballparks, the park symbolized a sense of community.
So we're so excited to be here. The donations have been coming in all throughout the morning.
Celebrating 70 years by giving back to the communities we serve.
You never know who's experiencing food insecurity.
Aaron Baker and Destiny Chance look back at our year for giving.
As we celebrate 70 years, our focus today is the same as it was the first day on air, serving our communities. To honor our milestone, we spent the year giving back. Here's Destiny Chance and Aaron Baker.
We started Year for Giving Feed It Forward to help fight food insecurity and partner with agencies that are working to feed families.
We took it to 4 of the areas we serve: Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville, and Anderson.
And all thanks to you, thousands of families are able to put food on the table. We kicked off our Year for Giving in Asheville in April at Manna Food Bank. It started in 1982 and partners with more than 250 groups like churches, food pantries, and shelters to make sure people in need have food on the table.
Prior to the pandemic, we were serving around 65,000 people on average every month, and now we're serving double that, well over 125, 130,000 every single month.
To serve that many people, Manna relies on help from volunteers who donate time and money to help their neighbors.
Nutrition is something that when you're facing a choice between do I pay my medical bills or do I buy food, the nutritious food is the first to get off that list because it's much more expensive.
Thanks to your donations, we raised $9,000, providing almost 36,000 meals to families in western North Carolina.
In May, we headed to the Spartanburg Soup Kitchen. The organization is made up of a partnership of individuals and organizations in the upstate and has been feeding the hungry for more than 40 years.
It's a plate filled with hope. It's a plate filled with happiness and with joy. That lonely person can come and have a conversation.
In Spartanburg, there are really two big...
We also honored the memory of WYFF News 4's Mike McCormick and Aaron Smeltzer, two journalists who died tragically in 2018. Mike and Aaron covered many stories at the Spartanburg Soup Kitchen and were well loved by everyone there.
Leaving here makes the future seem as sweet as the tea and as warm as every meal. Mike McCormick, WYFF News 4, Spartanburg.
The mercy and grace that he showed to us will always be here with us.
Together, we raised $21,000, helping to provide a warm meal to tens of thousands of people in the upstate.
In August, we partnered with the United Way of Anderson County and learned about the heartbreaking reality of childhood hunger.
We don't want a child in Anderson County to go to bed hungry or to wake up wondering where their next meal is coming from.
The organization says 1 in 6 children in Anderson County are at risk for hunger, and that problem gets worse on the weekends when kids are at home and away from free or reduced cost meals at school.
We make sure that they are stocked up and ready to go for the weekends, so that way Monday morning they're ready to learn.
The Weekend Snack Pack program gives children in need ready-to-eat food, and each snack includes an encouraging note. You helped donate almost $17,000, giving more than 700 students in Anderson County weekend meals for 1 month.
In November, WYFF4 partnered with the Duke Energy Foundation for a fundraiser to benefit Mill Village Farms and Food Share Greenville. The day began in downtown Greenville, where volunteers packaged sweet potatoes for Mill Village Farms as food share boxes, available at discounted rates to those in need.
By no means a handout, it's a hand up. We have families that can purchase this, really what's a $30+ retail value of produce. They can purchase it for $20 cash, but if you're on SNAP or EBT or food stamps, you can purchase that box for only $5. So it's an incredible value for our families that can depend on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sydney, how are we doing?
We are doing great, Carol.
In the afternoon, we helped raise money at Mill Village Farms, a nonprofit that provides healthy food at reduced prices. By the end of the day, you helped us raise more than $64,000, giving more than 3,000 families access to healthy food boxes.
In 2023, your year for giving donations helped provide over 71,000 meals, over 5,000 pounds of food, and over $111,000 in donations.
Ahead on Chronicle, our commitment to this community.
It is as much a part of our DNA as our news program.
WYFF4's mission to see our impact go beyond our daily newscasts and into the neighborhoods we serve.
For decades, WYFF4 has woven itself into the very fabric of this community, and not just by telling stories. Our Sydney Shadrick shows us how we have made it a priority to help our neighbors, both in our backyards and abroad.
There is still time to donate. 1-800.
From donations given by people like you.
A commitment
here in downtown Anderson
to community.
You've got to be part of the fabric of the community. And that's the reason that WYFF has survived so long.
To help fight childhood hunger. That comes from a heart for people.
We want to make an impact when COVID happens and people are having trouble putting food on the table. We do food drives. When there's some horrible natural disaster and the American Red Cross calls, we raise our hand and say, we're here for you.
Here for the people in the state of South Carolina.
A storm of historic proportions.
When hurricanes hit our coasts and devastate other parts of the country and the world.
Would you like to make a donation tonight?
Check or charging a credit?
WYFF4 answers the call to help the communities at home and abroad.
I had never been part of a telethon that we had done here.
So the tsunami happened in Indonesia, I think. It was right around the holiday, and we pulled the department heads together when we got back fairly quickly and said we should do a fundraising effort. I said, okay, well, I've worked in local television my whole life. We'll have some phone calls, we'll raise some money, it'll be fine. And we started at 5 a.m. that day, and we went through the late news, and we raised, I think, more than $500,000. In this community, $20 by $50 by $5, it was astounding.
It speaks volumes for the folks people that live here and want to pick up the phone and do something to help.
I'd never been part of anything like it.
Thank you to everyone.
Never seen anything like it.
A station that understands the importance of getting to know your neighbors.
A historic day for the city of Greenville.
You've got to know the community. You got to be part of the community. Otherwise, you're just slinging hash.
We love hearing the phones ring.
And reaching out when those neighbors
You have raised more than $27,000. We
need a little extra help.
Local broadcast television is so much more than what you see on just the faces you see on TV every day. The impact we're making in our communities is invaluable. I think it's immeasurable.
From Spirit of Giving campaigns to the Holiday Sunshine Fund, WYFF4 has been there in your hospitals, your homes, and during your holidays.
and give a gift that will mean so much
to try to make life a little bit brighter. And as a Hearst television station, we were instrumental in securing grants from the William Randolph Hearst Foundation to say thank you to the people who have come before us and those who have fought for us.
It is as much a part of our DNA as our news programming. We could no more not do community events than we just stop airing programs, right? That's just part of who we are. The company believes in that, obviously, but the station believes in it for a couple of good reasons. One is it's good business. It's great business. But we live here too. And we want this to be as good a community as it can be.
Generations of helping hands and hundreds of thousands of dollars over the decades to say thank you for being there for us as we continue to work to be there for you.
There's also a commitment to the community because the community has an expectation of how we act, how we perform, and what we deliver. And we have to live up to that every day, to each other,
keeping you connected,
and to the community.
WYFF4 has taken part in at least 14 telethons with the American Red Cross, raising around $4 million. To date, we've raised nearly $1.7 million with the Holiday Sunshine Fund and $890,000 with the Spirit of Giving campaign.
So we get ice storms, snowstorms, tropical systems. But we also get tornadoes out of tropical systems.
Some familiar faces join Chief Meteorologist Chris Justice to reflect on some of the most memorable weather to hit our area over the last 70 years.
We know minutes, even seconds matter when it comes to severe weather.
Chief Meteorologist Chris Justice reflects back on some of the biggest weather events to come through our area, and he does it with the help of a couple friends.
The WYFF4 weather team has seen it all over the past 70 years. In 1959, Hurricane Gracie made landfall in Beaufort as a major Cat 4. Then in February and March of 1960, it would not stop snowing. There was not a lot of school that year because it snowed weekly. And in 1973, Monty Dupuy tracked tornadoes ripping through the upstate.
And of course, one definite tornado that touched down in the Paris Mountain area, in Berea, and also in the Wade-Hampton area that we know about.
One we'll never forget is the snowstorm of 1988.
Well, at least this is the most advanced warning we've had on any major occurrence of snow and freezing precipitation in the upstate for some time. A lot of you out there.
Charlie said it would, and Carol was there too, as the team tracked one of the biggest snows to ever hit our area. That takes us to the 90s, when the John Sesrich and Dale Gilbert era began. From actually flying into hurricanes to tracking the big ones, these two saw it all. We recently met up to talk about the ones we will never forget.
As far as a memorable storm for me, personally, 1993, the March blizzard, the storm of the century. And we ended up with rain and wind. We had tropical storm force winds in the upstate. It was all snow. Remember all snow up in the mountains? Blizzard conditions. They had over 2-3 feet of snow in the mountains. Mount Mitchell had 50 inches of snow.
Watching how the impact would come our way. Right. And as a kid watching it, we're in Hendersonville, and we didn't have power for 10 days. I remember having to find firewood with my dad to burn just to stay warm.
We talk about big storms. Snow is probably our favorite, but the worst ones we have to deal with are those ice storms. I remember that ice storm back in 2005 that put that thick layer of ice on everything. Tree limbs fell, took down the power lines. You couldn't even go out on your steps trying to get out of your house.
We got the high storms, we got the winter storms, but we tracked some big hurricanes together. Yeah. Florence, Matthew, Ivan, all some very big ones that we'll never forget. And it was year after year there.
It was, and as far as a tropical system that affected me personally was Tropical Storm Jerry in 1995. In fact, that's still the most rain that's ever fallen in a 24-hour time period at the GSP International Airport.
Speaking of tropical storms, I remember back in 1989 having to go in the middle of the night and do radio reports because Hugo, that had hit the Charleston area, was coming into the upstate still with hurricane force winds. Right. And we were getting 90-mile-per-hour gusts all across the upstate, taking down trees, power lines. It was a scary night with a hurricane in Greenville.
We get a lot of severe weather here. We're talking major violent tornadoes that went through Seneca.
Because this is going to be a long night. One of those nights you see the writing on the wall, this is going to be a bad night. This is an extremely dangerous situation, and we'll remember getting on at 11 o'clock and encouraging somebody in every household to stay awake all night long. Sure enough, 2:33 a.m., we had one tornado, two tornadoes, eventually 7 tornadoes on the ground at one time, and that big one in Clemson and Seneca. Terrible.
Just 2 weeks later, late April 2020, another tornado outbreak, this time in the heart of Greenville. A powerful EF2 touchdown just miles from WYFF4, knocking out the power.
We're okay here at the station, but we did
take our backup generator keeping us on air, allowing me to track the twister street by street. There was one big weather event we were able to plan for months in advance.
2017, the total eclipse that came through the upstate.
That was so much fun.
Yeah, because we were all at different places. Where were you, Dale?
I was over in the Hollingsworth area, that new development over there, and had a huge crowd of people.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody was anticipating that moment. And then when it just went dark for a little bit, it was like there was a hush over the crowd, and then everybody started to applaud, and it was an amazing event to go through.
Oh, and the temperature dropped like 5, 6, 7 degrees.
Yeah.
But when it hit, and you had totality, that was so cool.
We also reflected on the legacy of the WYFF4 weather team.
Hello, you too.
Welcome. We're glad to have you.
When I started in 1991 at WYFF4, it's the commitment from management and ownership for every 28 years that I've been at the station, where if there was a chance for me to go somewhere else, I didn't want to go anywhere else because I knew they committed so much, 100%, 101% to weather.
Yeah, in fact, yesterday, 76
and I just know that WYFF is going to continue to be in the forefront of not only technology, but the personalities like Chris and those to come who will continue to focus on the weather for the benefit of the entire upstate area.
And to help me track storms for decades to come, WYFF4 just invested in a brand new Live Super Doppler 4.
The only privately held Doppler in the market, Live Super Doppler 4. We just spent in excess of 7 figures to update, upgrade, renovate that so that we keep our neighbors safe during severe weather.
This state-of-the-art technology will help us track severe weather down to street level with up to the second data. Known in the past as the 15-minute edge, this time advantage will save lives. I'm so thankful to have Live Super Doppler 4 along with the best team to give you advanced warnings of severe weather and help keep your family safe.
Ahead on Chronicle, celebrating 70 years.
It was great. It was fun. We got to do sports for a living. It's what we all dreamed of doing.
Yeah. Members of the WYFF4 sports family reunite to share memories of covering teams across the Carolinas and Georgia.
In any community, sports teams can bring us together, and we've been fortunate to tell their stories. Sports director Mark Whiteman and some familiar faces on the moments and memories that live on.
There just aren't many places for sports quite like the Carolinas, and we have been fortunate to have a front row seat for 70 years. In fact, one of the very first athletic events we broadcasted when WYFF4 was still WFBC was a 1954 men's basketball game between Furman and Newberry College when Frank Selvey scored 100 points for the Paladins, still the record for the most ever scored in a Division I men's basketball game. WYFF4 Sports has brought you history as it's unfolded with legends like Jim Phillips, Jeff Hart, and so many more leading our coverage. And who better to relive a few memories than some old friends?
There was something in every season. You know what I mean? There is no real off season.
The passion for sports in this community is kind of unrivaled. You've done a show, you've walked off and the phone rings, it's like, you hate the Gamecocks. Next phone call is, you hate the Tigers. And you go, oh, I must have done it right.
That's the thing that was so cool, is that you have no idea what moment or what thing you said that really resonated with a viewer out there.
How can you span decades in just a couple of minutes?
I can't, that was perfect.
Well, for starters, it helps to have some good storytellers around.
Beautiful Ford Field here in Greenville's West End, and wow, what a sight this is. 3 decades of upstate sports coverage at WYFF. Jeff Hart, nearly 20 of those years you spent as the sports director from 1993 to 2011. Brad Freilich took over in 2011, spent 9 years, and of course 2 of the guys that you all worked with so long, Bob Mahalik, spent 9 years with Jeff in the WYFF News 4 Sports Department, and Mike Giordano, 9 years there as well.
Now, WYFF News 4 Sports.
Is there another TV market in the country that has ever covered a college team that goes to a national championship and an NFL team that went to the Super Bowl in the same year?
From the Super Bowl to a super resemblance.
Appearances can be deceiving and confusing. Logano, Giordano, Problemo.
Golf at Augusta and hockey in the upstate.
The Greenville Growl won the Kelly Cup Championship, the old team, the Growl, back in the 2000s.
Fantastic.
They come stumbling off the bus carrying a trophy.
These 4 have done it all. The athletes and the teams have changed.
Trey Dyson and the Gamecocks are about to play for the national championship.
Good evening and welcome to Salute to the Champions.
But something we've all had a part in. Friday Night Hits.
Just another great night for high school football in the upstate.
Greenwood riding a 16-game winning streak coming into this one. What I really love is the eras that you see right here, the technology differences, and how Jeff and Bob handled Friday Night Football from the time they started till the time they finished. Nothing ever made you feel closer to Rockstar than when you're in Sky 4 and you're banking into the stadium and you're landing and everybody's like cheering your arrival.
This wasn't just the sports department. This involved the entire newsroom. We had someone who was hired just to sit at the phone because people would call in the scores. Sometimes it was wives and daughters, and sometimes it was interns, but we had to wait for the phone call to get the score, and hopefully it was the correct score.
It's changed so much, but I love that the essence of the show has not changed. It is still about shining the spotlight on high school athletes.
There'll be a 36-year-old man carrying a baby and walking a kid. It'll stop me and go, hey, I was on Friday Night Hits. I was a defensive back for Malden, and I made a play, and I made Friday Night Hits.
There were Friday nights, and there were Saturdays covering the highs and lows of South Carolina's biggest rivals.
Whether you like Spur or you didn't like Spur, he was always willing to mix it up.
Most of our guys have never been to Death Valley. That is the Death Valley, isn't it? Or is there another one around?
Our guys have never been to USC. California's a long way.
The Jabs made for must-see TV.
I read one today from the head coach at our upstate school. You know, that school that used to beat us a lot, that doesn't beat us much anymore. That one?
But no decision more impactful than the hire of Dabo Swinney.
You know, Clemson's got this opening. We're all thinking maybe they should go get Bob Stoops at Oklahoma or Will Muschamp. He was the hot coordinator at the time. And Jeff was like, who are you going to get better than Dabo Swinney? Dabo Swinney is the guy.
I'd like to tell everybody to dream big and to believe, because dreams do come true.
When that comes along, it's just so fantastic, and that's what he brought.
I'll never forget, I watched Jeff's coverage of the press conference where he was hired. He said that day that it was going to be the best 10 years in Clemson football history, and it was the best 10 years in Clemson football history.
But see, this guy's so lucky. He gets Omaha and College World Series. He gets national championships. I'm going to Shreveport for the Weed Eater Bowl.
7-5 was great. Those 7-5 years were great.
It's always about the athletes that authored the story. And for the storytellers,
That was too close.
it's the camaraderie that came with living out their dreams.
In Augusta, Mike Giordano. When you love each other and you trust each other, and that's what you have to have in a sports department. When you do that, you just put out a much better product.
Did you hear that one lady say he is so cute? All right. We just got after it.
You know, this is like when you play sports. Like, you remember the championships and stuff, but you remember a lot of the stuff that happened off the field.
It's great. It was fun. We got to do sports for a living. It's what we all dreamed of doing, and we got to do it, and do it with great people. And you led the way.
Next on Chronicle,
Things change constantly.
the way we get your news to you has changed dramatically over the last 7 decades.
But the people who created all of the technical things here are absolute geniuses.
A look back at TV technology.
Our first Hello 70 years ago was all about bringing the story from here to you at home. Technology has changed over the years, and so has the way we bring you the news.
This is station WFBC TV.
Back then, we were WFBC, which stood for
First Baptist Church. The radio station, which was the original FBC, started in the basement of the First Baptist Church. When they built the TV station, they kept the name.
But television was very different from radio. Getting that signal with sound and those moving pictures to you took a lot of equipment, a lot of heavy equipment, and miles and miles and miles of wires. That first analog television signal was transmitted from a tower located on Paris Mountain. But as the area grew, so did we. WFBC became the giant of the southern sky when it moved its 100,000-watt transmitter to the top of Caesar's Head. This brought our signal to more homes in more communities with an even stronger signal.
January 4th, 1972.
51 years ago, a young Don Jackson started his career as a news photographer.
Here's what I used when I first walked in this door.
2 film cameras, one for video, one for audio. Then he would take that film
and then edit it and match it up and hope and pray that it didn't break on the air.
And speaking of on the air, Channel 4 became WYFF 4 on March 3rd, 1983.
WYFF, your friend 4.
Live on-the-spot coverage of...
Over the years, new technology made our ability to go live possible.
And that's what News Center 4's Live Eye delivers.
Vans were retrofitted to become mobile news studios, sending our live signal to those towering transmitters.
News 4 has the latest satellite technology to take you there.
Then, new technology gave us the ability to go live literally anywhere this satellite truck could go.
Whenever news breaks, we'll be there.
Beaming our signal, you guessed it, to satellites and then back.
When it's important.
Major breaking news across the upstate. Right into your living room.
The people who created all of the technical things here are absolute geniuses.
Live on the scene as news happens.
Cameras got smaller, transmitters lighter, and that gave us the ability to fly.
When you need to know now, Sky 4 takes you right to the scene.
Sky 4, the only news helicopter in South Carolina. The only way to see the news like this.
With the first and only HD view of local news from the air.
This may be a first on national television.
I am the greatest. WYFF 4 signed on its digital signal on May 1st, 2002.
High-definition television.
But digital didn't just mean clear picture and sound on your television. It also meant we can now send that signal to your computer and the phone right there in your pocket.
We're covering breaking news.
Let's go live to the scene.
That meant the news needed to be 24/7.
These guys now, but storms will move in later.
I covered something at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I've got till 6 o'clock to write this story. We don't have that anymore.
Just click here on WYFF4.com.
Whether that be our website, our app, Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram, they're all there. We want to be everywhere.
Stephanie Towers is the digital content manager at WYFF News 4.
Hey. I've been in this job 12 years, and things change constantly. I love it. I'm having to learn something new every day because the business is changing. The digital elements are changing. There's a new social media platform.
As we move forward here, hour by hour.
Now, it's not just about technology bringing you breaking news to your television at home, but instead bringing it in a form of an alert wherever you are. This is one of the newest pieces of technology. It is a backpack, and it allows us to go live anywhere. How does it work? Well, it uses multiple mobile phone lines to send that signal right to you at home.
Still to come on Chronicle. A behind-the-scenes look at a day in the life of WYFF4.
It's a big boat, lots of oars in the water, but we're all rowing in the same direction.
It takes a lot of talented and dedicated people to uphold a legacy.
Jane Robelo shows us the daily commitment from everyone in the WYFF4 family to continue that legacy for decades to come.
30 away. Flaring cam 2, VOA to follow.
Each broadcast is a symphony of voices.
2. Stand by Sotbo B.
Many of them voices that you, our viewers, never hear.
And take 3Q. Flare up, QJ.
Fulton County District Attorney each one supporting the voices you do know.
WYFF News 4 live local breaking news is next.
Let's go meet the people behind the scenes. There are more than 80 talented people on our news and operations teams, keeping the newsroom and the control room in perpetual motion.
Sunday or sunny in the upper 60s.
The team meets several times each day, choosing the stories that you'll see on the air and online.
Waiting more information along this.
Our news crews are right there in your communities, gathering live, local breaking news.
Our democracy depends on someone holding the powerful accountable. Local broadcast television is uniquely placed to do that anymore.
More than 100 people bring a variety of expertise into this building each day, all with a commitment to excellence.
They're connected. It's a WYFF4 family, and there's a commitment to that.
The mantra from the top is to be part of the community and be excellent. Don't be okay. Don't be in the middle of the road. Be first and be excellent.
Our sales team also gets to make those personal connections with the community.
You know, it's kind of a good thing, probably, that none of our salespeople are here, because that means that they're out meeting with local businesses today, right?
Yes, because we are out selling.
And at the other end of the sales hallway, here's Josh. What do you sell?
Air. 30 seconds at a time. You know, we use the power of our air and what you guys do to, grow local businesses. And it's really cool when you get to see a local business grow, stimulate the economy.
And it all comes to you through our brain center, Master Control.
I get to just make sure all the commercials run. I make sure that all the shows run as they are.
When news breaks, WYFF News 4 is there.
Our creative services team is dedicated to connecting you with all that we do.
WYFF News 4.
This is our promotions team. Hey, y'all.
Hey. Our walls are filled with reminders of 70 years of creative services branding and our birth as the giant of the southern skies.
I am putting together a package about Black Friday for Gabby.
Blair, cute.
Just trimming down a sot.
You might need a translator to understand all the technical lingo.
Serving you with 9 translators.
These are the translators to reach every community in our area.
Esto es WYFF News 4, aquí para ti.
Along with translation to bring the news to our growing Spanish-speaking population.
This is one of America's great television stations, past, present, and future. And I think WYFF4 is one of the few stations that can say that.
And brick rolls fade.
Our WYFF4 family thanks you for your trust in us, and we pledge our support to the next generation of viewers.
Good block, everybody. Well done. Appreciate the help on that one.
I am so honored to have been with WYFF4 for 24 years.
And I'm proud to have been a part of this team for 38 years. We want to thank you, our viewers, for welcoming us into your homes every day.
You can count on WYFF4's commitment to excellence in local broadcasting and in the communities we serve to continue on your television, computer, phone, even something that hasn't yet been created.
Thank you for joining us for Chronicle as we look back at 70 years of broadcasting at WYFF4. Good night.